We are going to start. Welcome everyone again. I am Leah Sciortino, and I am the founder and director of Junction, and Junction is the public venue in Bangkok. And I am very glad to have again with us Aung, the founder and chef editor of the Irrawaddy, one of the most important media on Myanmar. This program is in collaboration with Ajar as well as media partner, the Irrawaddy and Mizima. We have been doing this update since the very beginning of the coup, and we believe that even if there is less public interested into, unfortunately, interesting on what is happening in Myanmar, we still think it's extremely important to document what is happening and share information to a wider audience. So we continue to do these monthly updates to inform about what has been happening in the last month. As usual, we will have Aung as our resource person give an overview of the key issue in the last month, and then we will open the floor for question and answer. Okay, Aung, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rosalia, and thank you for having me again. Well, to update what happened last month, I was thinking of how many stories we have covered for last month, and so I think the team here extensively worked and covered the stories, and particularly even today, what we have been covering is the flood situation in Burma, as well as in the northern Thailand, and our friends and stuff here are also facing this issue. But the contrasting issue thing is that the regime have no imagination, no creative thinking. Before the arrival of the waters and the floods, there were no mitigation to prevent and for the flood. So we have we are not the main target countries, but even though the death toll is quite high, so far, according to the UN reports, we already have 419 people dying, and according to UNOCHA, and 600,000 people have been affected. And in the region and states, we have including 9 region and states, including Naypyidaw, which is surprisingly the capital, which is surprisingly their death toll is the highest over there. It shows that completely unprepared the regime was. The regime leader came out and told people to be self-reliant as usual, and then so people had to come out, help themselves. A lot of underground or those who are laying low, the CSO, NGO, small NGO in the local base, they also came out to help the victims. The problem is it has been politicized again because of the regime do not trust the aid workers and CSO like in the past. So those who are trying to get the boats and trying to get the transport boats to carry the aids and medications to rescue the people, they've been stopped, or the boats are being confiscated by the regime, and then do not allow the trouble to some areas that are seriously affected. This shows that there are a lot of international, there are a lot of willingness, there are a lot of offer from the Western governments, including the U.S. embassies and U.S. government. So those in ASEAN's neighboring countries, Thailand, but in particular, as well as the India, they offer the scan support. But I'm sure if the doors are open, they'll be willing to go inside and help. But the problem is access, where the regime is willing to provide or give us access to those affected areas. That's one issue. And the second issue is, in spite of the floods and the people have suffered a lot and lost homes and properties, and the regime continue to have an airstrike in almost daily in the northern region area. So this is one thing that if you look at the Irrawaddy, other news agencies that cover Myanmar issues, Burma issues, you will see that almost daily bombing and air raids in Shan states, which is also affected by the floods in other regions. So this is something I would like to share, and that and also ask a question about the international aid agencies and the governments around the region who were talking about humanitarian assistance, humanitarian aid for the last 3 years to 4 years. Nothing had happened. Again, when you see that this natural disaster, the floods, and the regime, the door is very closed and very tightly closed, and being politicized, that those only in affected areas in the government or the regime control areas being given some kind of small access, but the rest of the countries and the regions and states have a very little access. And recently, regime also the mainland, general mainland, also received a generous donation from cronies and the tycoons, about $15 million US. But most of the money, we don't know where it will go, because of regime was telling the victims or the flood victims that it has to be self-reliant. Self-reliance, you have to help yourself. So that's the problems that if the international community or the Western governments are given a green light, but where they can have access to, I think this is the big issue. And also, even during the flood flood rescue operations, we have even reported that regime leader kept telling that we're going to have he said that they're going to have elections, they're going to have a census. So he was not only just focusing on the rescue operation, but he can only travel to the Naypyidaw region. The rest of the country most of the area, as I mentioned, the 9 region and states have been affected, but the soldiers and the troops who were supposed to be there are not there. They've been busy and got in their territory and the outpost, fear of attacks. So and also he was telling the regime leader was telling the people just to go home because of his government was going to have a census. So this doesn't make sense at all. Then you also see the reports that Thai RTA, Thai government and the government, they went out to far areas where they deploying these military personnel, as well as the tanks and amphibious vehicles to rescue and deliver the aid system. You can see the completely contrasting, two new dynamics, that the regime is, as usual, unprepared, didn't do anything, couldn't help anything. But the neighboring country, Thailand, it seems to show that they are well prepared to deal with this. They are trying to mitigate the incoming this natural disaster. So this is something that also Myanmar people are learning again, and not for the first time. Learning again in the last 2 decades, that the Myanmar government, or in the past, or the regime at the present time, had no preparation at all on this natural disaster. So this is one thing I want to share. And the second is that apart from that floods, we've seen that there's some interesting developments. Seems to me India, New Delhi just woke up, facing the reality that we have a news that New Delhi was going to have call it ICWA conference in I think in November, and which they're going to invite the ethnic organization from Myanmar, at least 3. And also the government aides, the NUG representative will be invited. And in that conference, I think India foreign minister will be speaking. So this is something interesting to note, that whether New Delhi position is going to change, because of in the past, New Delhi seems to be very close to the regime and supporting the regime elections and giving support to the legitimacy to the regime. Now it seems to be they just woke up and started shifting the position. So this is one thing I would like to share. Second is that the Japan, which is also one of the largest aid donors to Myanmar, ODA assistance given to Myanmar, is now is we have report today or yesterday and today that Japan is going to downgrade the diplomatic relation. This is the first time it happens. And because of even under the slog SPDC time, I mean, talking about 20 years ago, that Japan continued to maintain its ambassador position in Myanmar, in spite of the, human rights abuses. Aung San Suu Kyi was being detained, and political prisoners are being detained, and Japan kept its presence at the highest level, diplomatic mission. But now this time, Japan is going to downgrade. The current ambassador going to go back. He seems to be one of the longest serving ambassador because of 2 years he was checked in before the coup. During the coup, he stayed on for another 4 years. So he seems to be one of the longest serving ambassadors. So he's going back, and only Church affair will serve as the highest level in the Japanese embassy in Yangon. But before that, Japan changing position, we also see the two interesting development. Japanese Foreign Ministry had invited the current KNU, the one of the ethnic EO representative to Tokyo, as well as the some opposition members to Tokyo, I think in April, I think, if I'm not wrong. And also after that, we also saw a very interesting development that one of the top executive members from the Aung company based in Yangon, a Japanese guy, was arrested and detained for a few months before being released. So these are the things that, because Japan is one of the key countries that regime rely on, and but now it seems to be downgrading the relation with the regime. The last one is that the Pope Francis called for the release of Aung San Suu Kyi and offer her to be in the Vatican. So I think he's one of the most influential people talking about Aung San Suu Kyi, which will remind a lot of government leadership around the world, I think. And this is also quite interesting to me. And the last one I would like to share is that now we have a UN General Assembly. So what UN is going to do for the last 3 years, we've seen a lot of buffing from the UN body, but doing very little on Burma, on Myanmar. Even that I think UN Secretary General, I think a few weeks after the coup, he said that I quote, that it is absolutely essential to release all political prisoners. It is absolutely essential to respect the result of the election, which he meant about 2020, and to allow for a situation in which we move back to democratic transition, unquote. So he even said that the UN were trying to reverse the military coup in Myanmar. So now is after almost 4 years, UN can do little, except for the hot air balloon, and occasionally they released. Nothing happened. So that's the situation update from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the update, and indeed some significant development. Now there are already 2 questions. The first is, can you provide an update on the elections? The election that are supposed to, well, be in the planning, related also to the survey. And then the second, could you please share the updates regarding the Chinese government involvement in Myanmar politics, also related to the 3 brotherhoods and other phenomena that you see as relevant related to the Chinese in this last month. And then one more actually just arrived. Did the hangings of 2 people happen, the couple, right, for the first time a woman has been condemned to that, and it seems it has been conducted. So what you know about this, there seems to be confusion about whether it has happened or not on the 23rd. And then what about the other 5 that it was said would be hanged on 24th of September? That is, of course, a very terrible thing that continue death penalty for without any form of process.
Yeah, I think regarding the elections, there is no date has been fixed for the election, and the regime leader kept saying that the election will be held in 2025. There will be census on October 1st, which is completely unrealistic in given this situation. So I don't think election is. I don't think, given the current situation, I don't think election can take place. And also whether election will be legitimized, will get the support from the around the region and international community. I really doubt it. Let me take you back to the. I will be a little bit. I mean, if you can stop me if I'm speak too much.
Please go ahead.
Because I think that if you look at the Chinese visit, Chinese foreign minister visit last time, last month, he talked about elections, and then the regime talked about election. But apart from that, no one talk about election, and the regime don't talk about elections. Sorry. I'm sorry. The Western country, Western government don't talk about elections. So if there's an election, the election has to be credible. And addition, this whatever election is going to take place next year, I don't think it's going to be credible. I don't think regime will get any kind of support, recognition from the governments in the West, even from the China. China and US may have a common thought or idea on Burma, which is they want to see the stability, going back to the democratic transition. They may have a same idea about this, but I don't think the West will agree with the elections for next year. So I don't think election is. I'm not sure election can take place next year. But if the regime is going to push ahead, I think you will see that it's a forced election in some selected areas where regime will force people to go out and vote or have a very rigged result. Because regime might be thinking that according to the constitution, they have a 25%. So they have to work on another 24 or 26%. That there may be a little bit logical thinking, but you never know dealing with these crooks. And so whether how they're going to manipulate, how they're going to rig the outcome, even if there's an election. So I'm really very doubtful if election can be held next year. But also I see more of I think instability in the country, and which I'm hard to predict at the moment, but we will see. So this is my answer to the election. So the second question is about China involvement. First thing is that look at the Chinese embassy in Yangon. They have a whole new people and new ambassador. It is she and her. She's also very much involved, actively involved, engaging with the the regime ministers. And also there's a whole bunch of people being, I think, replaced, including those who sit in the Mandalay Council Generals and political officers. And so I think a new team came to install in the Chinese embassy in Yangon. I think this seems to be quite active, engaging, with each sectors. Chinese also invited the political parties recently. I think soon there will be a new political parties. Another political parties will also be invited to China. So China is making a move, quite interesting to see that, you know, China is trying to engage with all you know, a lot of stakeholders, as well as with your question about the three brotherhoods. And you can see that a lot of pressure is coming to the MNDAA Kogan group. They released they issued a statement 2 weeks ago saying that they are not going to take the Mandalay and Tangji. They are not going to work with the NUG anymore. So these are strong indication that China really put the pressure on them. But also China might have other kind of thinking because of, you know, they see that Maolan cannot control the country. And they see that Maolan don't really listen to them. They see that Maolan doesn't really open the door for dialogue and peace. And the continuation of bombing and declaration of these three brotherhood as a terrorist organizations. So that means closing the door. And the regime is really preparing to regain the control of these lost territories. But according to their own, I spoke to some of the former ex-generals who serve in the Burmese army. They even told me that it would take at least 10 years, militarily, it would take another 10 years to retake or to regain the control of these lost territories, militarily. So I think that's an interesting assessment. Once you lost Lasho, which is continue to face the bombing, air raids every early morning, and it's becoming like a, you know, deserted towns, and which once used to be trading town with the people living there, trading and you know, bustling towns, but now it's being bombed by the regime. So regime is very determined to regain and control, but they cannot send any ground troops to take over these lost territories. So according to their own analysis, it would take at least they said 10 years to regain the control of these lost territories. From the, I think, MNDAA and those opposition forces, so they are not going to give them easily. These assets, these townships, these trading towns, gate or checkpoints are becoming their assets, and their political bargaining chips. So I think there will be if there's a talk in the future between the regime and those opposition ethnic forces, I think these territory are going to be put on the table as a bargaining chip, because you're not going to give them easily. And China will see what kind of, you know, negotiation they can have it, you know, because of Chinese also, you know, wants to know how these two groups are going to negotiate and renegotiate. So I think, I don't know, it's difficult at the moment to see, but two sides are not going to talk. Two sides are continue to fight, and also we cannot really, how to be really. Some people are very quickly react to this statement by MND saying, "Oh, Tangji won't meet." Tangji, they want to take over Tangji, they want to take over Mandalay. But even in the Mandalay, only 2 miles away from Mandalay, center of the Mandalay, they were fighting now. There are clashes now. There were raids, and there are shooting, and a lot of clashes taking place near the Mandalay capital. So we can never say exactly that, because of a lot of active Mandalay PDF are also quite active around the periphery of the Mandalay capital. So still difficult to say what will be the next 2 or 3 months when the rain is over. We may have more updates and more of information on emerging new, you know, dynamic in these forces working in the northern region. But lastly, I want to touch on China. It is difficult to trust China. I mean, honestly, to say that I don't think that both regime and opposition forces won't trust China. And China has remained as a very bullying force over the two, over the opposition and the regime. And because of Chinese bullying strategy or tactic, I think it will only push the Burmese forces to become more of a pro-West. I think this is how I see it. Burmese are already being very much close to the West and close to the West. But now, when China really bully them and push them out, then I think more and more Burmese will think that China is not an option for us to to see that, to regain a stability or some sort of political transition in Myanmar. They're just trying to come to protect their own interest, and they are not interested in anything else. Then I think a lot of Burmese forces, as always been, they will be pushed back to the West. That's you can see. I can see that also. There's already been traditionally Burmese are very much anti-China, and they have anti-China sentiment. So that's easy to see that there's a simmering unhappiness toward China. The last question about execution. Yes, there are a lot of press reports, and also ASEAN Human Rights Commission released a statement, which is quite encouraging. So far, even our news agency, we haven't reported on we haven't have any confirmation on the execution. So we will keep you updated on that. Thank you. I don't know.
Thank you. And actually, there was a related question about the MNDAA, about what would be the impact of their statement on the revolution, how it will affect the fact that they don't want to be with the NUG, associated with NUG. I think it was also an Irrawaddy article about that. I think you answered already related to that, but if you want to add anything, you can later on. There are many other questions, so I will try to select a few. Last month, there was a targeted killing of journalists in Myanmar. Can you please give an update on the situation of journalists, the ones that are in the country? But maybe that is the question, but maybe you want to expand also about what is the situation of journalists outside of the country, since recently there has been quite a lot of media attention about, I think it was a Frontier article which has exposed the situation of media from Myanmar exploiting or not behaving ethically correct and asking donor to intervene, which is kind of an interventionist, if not colonialist approach. But let's say, okay, that would be an interesting, this is an additional question I am posing. The original question focused on journalists in Myanmar and the targeted killing of a journalist in Myanmar. So that is one important question. I think the other question concerned Bangladesh. We have not talked much about Bangladesh, but we know it's quite important, particularly for the Rohingya. So the question is, what do you think the change in government in Bangladesh will impact on the situation of Myanmar, and about aid and about border issue related to Myanmar? The third question for now is about the continued airstrike. Do you have any insight into the air capabilities of Tamadao? I mean, do you need, how long Tamadao will be able to sustain such operation, given the existing sanction? I am not sure how effective the sanctions are. Maybe that you can expand also on that. That is again an additional question. But the question is, do you have any insight on the military capacity of airstrikes of the Tamadao? And please, okay. Hello? No, we don't
hear me now.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So I think questions are a lot. Thank you for your questions. But I'm thinking about the MNDA. The first question is about MNDA, right?
Yes, yes, you answered already
So
quite a lot
before
about
talking
that.
about MNDA and the regime capacity, I think there was a Wellington a summit by US, India, Japan, Australia. I think Quad. They released long read out press release and statement where there was a one paragraph on Burma, on Myanmar, and they said, we remain deeply concerned by the worsening political, security, and humanitarian situation in Myanmar, including in Rakhine State, and again call for an immediate cessation of violence, the release of all those unjustly and arbitrarily detained, safe and hinder humanitarian access, resolution of the crisis through the constructive and inclusive dialogue among all stakeholders, and return to the path of inclusive democracy. So, and this is one of the press release by the Quad, and also at the UN. I think the current UN General Assembly, the Myanmar issue is very much limited, and then it's almost quite silent. And then people are hoping that the current UN ambassador, who is part of the NUG, will maintain his position. So I think Myanmar issue is very subdued issue at the UN. And then when you talk about the MNDA and the airstrike capacity, I would say that I think regime, knowing that the weak international system, or you might want to call it broken international system, they have a freedom to continue to arrest, kill, bomb, do whatever they want, because there is no guidance and there is no person, no international leadership, and no leadership from ASEAN, no one from anybody coming to tell them to stop doing this. This is not acceptable. So I would say that very with my sad, but also my journalistic instincts that the atrocity will continue because no one is going to stop them. They know that. But last 3 years, you can only see the hot air from ASEAN leadership do nothing. And regime is happy with India, China, and Russia, Catalan, and so they are happy with that. They've been sustained because of the friends, neighboring countries do not speak out. They are complicit in this ongoing atrocities or genocide, you might call it, in Burma. So that's my point. So the point is about jet fuels. So I think jet fuel is mentioned in this Quad statement. I will read out another part. Right. So we restate our appeal to all states to prevent the flow of arms and dual-use materials, including jet fuels. So I think when I shared this statement to one of my colleagues who is a Thai person who also closely watch and used to work in Myanmar for 20-30 years, he said, he made a comment this morning to me through the phone, said, very weak statement, he said. And what Burmese need is anti-aircraft, Stinger, like what Afghanistan got it from the US. So, I think he was saying that these statements are just useless and don't mean anything. And regime is quite content and happy with these statements, weak and feeble statements. And actually, he said, what the Burmese people need is to shoot down the planes. So realistically, I think the point is how to stop the jet fuels, because the regime can no longer depend on the army, the reinforcement and troops. What they're doing every day is to scare people, to kill people from the air with these flying machines. I mean, the airstrikes and the jet fighters and helicopters, but they have a resource to keep flying, which is the jet fuels and then the spare parts. Spare parts are still coming from China and Russia's and maybe Ukraine and Belarus and other countries. It's still coming. So that's the point that, I mean, those, not only the ethnic armed forces, but also the civilians, they have to bear the brunt of this, these fightings and air raids almost daily. Even in our office, the stuff from all over the places in Burma. And we hear a story of their fathers and mothers, their sister, their relatives being hiding and their houses being burned down or being hit by the bomb. So this came to our newsroom. So you can see that the widespread carnage and atrocity committed by the regime, but no one is going to stop them. No one is coming out to make any strong statement to tell them that this is not acceptable. So I think this is what I want to share. Thanks for the question about MNDAA and all that. And also MNDAA did not make any promise that they will march down to Mandalay or Dangji. They never make any promise. It's quite interesting to say that, quite interesting to see that. They never make any promise. We are coming to this town, we are coming to that town. It's only the Burmese imagination. And of course, last show they wanted it, but I don't think they are making an explicit statement. We are coming down to attack the Mandalay. We are coming down to attack Dangji. We are coming down to attack Pingyuling, which is with the garrison town, and it used to be a holiday, place for the British colonial. So I think we will never know the military strategy on the ground. I don't think China also has a full control over this. When we had a Operation 1027 phase 1, of course China was involved because of its own interest, because online scamming. But now in 1027 phase 2, China was involved very little. And that's when China was very upset that the northern forces made their own decision and make a move. And China was trying to pull the plug and trying to stop them. And now China is trying to cut down the logistics support and fuels and the foods and supplies and almost everything. So I think those in the northern region, those forces are trying to play along and trying to survive. And pressure from China is mounting. But will China really put the pressure on them? I'm not sure about that. China will have to think of a lot of options. I'm sure that they also might have a lot of options how to deal with it, this situation. But my point is, whatever we are seeing today about air raids and the bombs and the killings, it's endless. But the Western governments and international community still denying to see the reality. They don't wake up yet. I think that's a sad thing.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the question was whether the capacity of the military Tatmadaw has somehow been reduced, or we don't see any kind of decrease of their capacity. But I suspect from your negative question that you still think they have sufficient capacity to do harm. So let's move to the.
I think so. I think so too. I think so. They remain very much determined themselves wrongly and justly to remain, and because the irony is, once you unleash the Burmese, particularly, they don't know how to reverse. I think Burmese military government regime, I don't think they know how to reverse the situation. They are stuck there. So they continue to commit, remain, and they were trying to increase capacity or air raids, whichever they can, with the under siege mentality. But the point is, there's no reverse because they don't know how to reverse. Burmese usually it's happened to us. I mean, I'm not foreigner, so I can speak with the 100% legitimacy to speak for our own people. And I'm not foreigners. If I'm foreigner, I'm always seen as an arrogant bastard. So, but I think, yeah, I think Burmese don't know how to reverse it. That's the point.
Yeah, I think it's a clear point. Okay, let's move to the media situation, the targeting of journalists, the killing of journalists inside Myanmar and situation abroad.
Yeah, I think that's continued to happen, a strong pattern. Even our staff, we cannot mention the names of the individuals who are in danger or who are now locked up in prisons. One of them is mentioned in a Committee to Protect Journalists report. So I think I will be quite sensitive not to say a lot, but a journalist or these call it citizen journalists, which I don't agree with the terms. I want to call them like reporters or stringers or source. But also they are in danger because they've been providing images and video footages and tip on news and situation report, right or wrong. We have to check, we have to verify it. So anyway, they are on the ground. They've been targeted. A lot of reporters inside the country, they're not really 100% professionally trained journalists and reporters, but they also have activists and have reporters and have journalists. So even ourselves, sometimes we say, oh, I'm 99% journalist, but 1% is a revolutionary. So that's just, or 1% is 10% is activist. So a lot of people are mixed up in this dynamic in this world because the revolution is continuing in Burma, inside and outside. So a lot of momentum, a lot of high spirits, and also a lot of low spirits because of taking too long, 3 years, 4 years. Some people are quitting, some people are not quitting. But inside, and I think difficult for those reporters continue to work inside the country. They've been targeted. You're right. Even I think that last week there was 4 people who were arrested. One of them is reporters was arrested and being put in prison. We are afraid of being tortured and even being, seriously harmed his mental and physical health issues. So yeah, I can say that. I cannot say much on that. Yeah.
Okay. So we move to the last question for today. One actually is related to ASEAN. I think you have said already, but if you want to add anything about ASEAN role, but no bad words, yeah, please, polite words about ASEAN. And then the second question is about trafficking. There has been an increase in trafficking of Rohingya youth from Arakan to Malaysia.
Yeah. Rosalia, I think there was one more question on ASI media. I think you have mentioned it.
Yes, the outside.
So I will touch on it briefly, just so that whoever asked the question, I with the respect to the question, I think the question should be to Mizama or Frontier, but not me. But I can still give you my feedback to this.
Yeah.
That is the ASI media. We call it ASI media since 2021 military coup. A lot of media houses fled. They are not fled in faction. They're fled and they run away from the houses and they run away from the prisons. Then they have to set up their shops again. I myself had to do it, and there we got good support, but not enough human resources. I mean, in terms of legal status, in terms of security issues, a lot of difficulties and a lot of challenges going through the COVID restrictions, then going through a lot of, I cannot name it because of sensitive issue here. So, and then the media houses emerge and I continue to work, continue to provide information to you guys, and a lot of difficulties in terms of funding, in terms of limited resources, and also HR issue. They're not like in a perfectly run ASI organization. So I think there's a mosquito around me, also listening to me. So I think so, like, you know, I mean, I think the a lot of media groups are supported by the Western donors and you know, organizations. I think my suggestion is to continue to look into the, you know, to support the HR sector, and to, you know, I don't think you can really seriously take on the Frontier article alone. I think there are a lot of flaws and a lot of problems with the reporting, and they don't even know what they are writing about. I think Frontier, as usual, I think they are forced to be in ASI, but the real ASI people are like us. We will be operating here, but I cannot speak for the Myanmar. And I think what my point is, generally, everyone is struggling very hard. They cannot run a perfect office with a human resource person and funding, enough funding. Everyone is struggling to survive and continue to work. And also, this is a profession, it's a lowly paid profession. And a lot of people stay with me for 10 years, 20 years with me. I don't know why. I think I asked, and then they told me that their passion, the love for the profession, and don't go and ask for how much they got paid. It's very low, but high commitment and highly trained people. So I mean, this is difficult for a lot of people to move around and survive, and you know, and then I think it's state testing time for a lot of organizations, I think, right? And so donors also, you should look into how to support, you know, how to support these organizations in infrastructures and HR policies, all that, you know. But now what we keep hearing is, you know, not enough support. I mean, we were trying to survive with a very limited support from almost everyone. So you can come on and complain about this. And I think
well, the interesting part is, of course, that donors are asked to intervene to improve, which is having been a donor.
Which one is interesting, Leah?
Well, to me, as a former donor, you know, sometimes I think there are issues that needs to be resolved by the organization themselves. I mean, this we are talking about. It's interesting that the solution is sought outside from the donor rather than from the journalist community themselves. But in that, I am of course, the donor can support, but
also, I think we have to understand that there's a conflict also. We think there are a lot of 60 or 50 media houses. You know, I don't think they are all united. As usual, the nature of the media houses are always very competitive. And also there are a lot of maybe a very pro-democracy, anti-regime media houses, as well as a pro-military, traditionally pro-military, some small media houses that come to do a nesting here, and they don't really understand the real situation, and they're trying to, you know, poke around and do things. I'm not saying it's a frontier. I'm saying that this is, you know, I'm saying that there are a group of people doing things that are anti-ASI media people and around him. I don't know. I cannot comment on that, because what I think is generally I'm sharing that it's difficult for everyone to survive. And also, I think this issue has been also trying to address by the Media Council. I don't know.
Yes, I think there was also FCCT, some talk about different media in different countries and some new initiative to support them. And there was talk, of course, about the article and the role of donor in this. And it deals also with sexual violence of women journalists, right? So there is also the issue of gender, and which is always very actual for any sector. I think we are still many unresolved gender issues, no matter where, and sexual violence is spread everywhere. So
Yeah,
this
I
is
think quite upsetting, quite upsetting. We need to look into the issue. We do. I think this question is really good question. I need to explore more, I think. Need to explore more on that. Much more a wider perspective to look into it. How the ASI media houses are surviving and trying to survive. I mean, they might be disappear soon because there's not enough money coming in. I think I just came back from Mesot area. I saw a lot of difficulties in the media houses. So a bit hard, difficult, a lot of stories there. So thanks for the question. It's a good question. Yeah.
Yes, I think I was the one who added to the original question about the inside media, because indeed it's quite a relevant question.
Oh,
and
very relevant, very relevant.
it plays out. But let's go to the last question, because now I have taken time out of other question. Maybe about we conclude with the issue of the Rohingya youth trafficking from Arakan to Malaysia. If you know everything and what can be done, if they come through Thailand also, what can be done to ensure they are safe. We know that Thailand doesn't consider the Rohingya a group of concern, especially with security risks, so they are not treated. They are even less, I mean, Thailand don't recognize refugees, but there are some groups like the Uyghurs and the Rohingya that are even less access to justice because of they are perceived as a risk, security risk. So what can be done related to this, and maybe relate to your interview with the leader of the Arakan army? I think was a very good interview that you did at the beginning of this month. So, okay, please, this is your last chance to say something, and then we conclude.
Well, I think thank you for your comment on the interview. Yeah, interview was quite interesting. I tried to, intervene him several times to get to peel off the, to get the right answer, a good answer from him. So I'm a journalist's job. But I think your question is about, like, yeah, a lot of very, very unfortunate that a lot of Rohingya people still continue to come to Thailand. Probably Mesot is one of the places that they come first with the human traffickers, and they have to pay a lot of money to come to this stage. Then from there, another group would take them to the southern Thailand, and from there they go to Malaysia. So it's not just a human trafficker, but also there are a lot of elements involved in like, Thais, human traffickers and other elements are also involved in this. This has been going on for long. So 1960s, 1950s, Rohingya from Butidam Mountain area, they came to resettlers in Mesot, and they become a very established in Mesot area. But now there's a lot of new arrived Rohingya come through the from Thailand border regions, and their destination has always been Malaysia. I don't know how Malaysia is going to handle this situation. I heard that a lot of issues now is the Malaysian government is very much concerned with the growing numbers of the Rohingya in there. And also recently we heard the news that there was also protest in Indonesia. And so, and also recently, unfortunately, not related to your question about the this week and last week, there was a protest against a Burmese migrant in Thailand, in Bangkok. So there was also growing, some kind of activities against it, because Burmese are first largest condo buyers this quarter, according to the reports. And also a lot of Burmese are coming here, settle the shops and set up the shop, open businesses without much knowledge on the Thai laws and regulations and what kind of business they can do or they cannot do. So I think I think that we can looking at the deterioration in the Myanmar situation, and a lot of people will continue to come to this country, to Thailand. So I would think we will have to mitigate and see a lot of how people come in, how Thai government and Thai authorities, I think they have to really prepare for this. More people, I believe, are coming to Thailand.
Yes, and indeed, this quite important policy issue, as we have seen last weeks in Parliament, and the reaction of the public, with the People Party has tried exactly to argue for registration of the Burmese that are in Thailand, which unfortunately has been taken quite negatively for political reason or not, but that is the sentiment at the moment. So it's indeed a very important issue to continue watching. So the Myanmar updates, the Burma updates, is not only about what is happening inside Myanmar, but also very importantly about what is happening with the Burmese population outside who had to flee or go out for economic or political reason out, and many more. The conscription is bringing many more young people, and also the Rohingya youth is escaping because they are sandwiched, so to say, between different parties. So thank you very much, Aung Sao. I know you are extremely busy, and we really are appreciating that you make the time. It's not only the 1 hour, but the preparation of it. So thank you very much, and look forward to see you. Don't change your mind. See you again next month for the next update.
Thank you, God. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the question.
Bye.
Bye, bye, God. Bye, bye, God. Bye, bye, God.
Bye.